Hey y'all. Taking a quick lunch break. I was working at home this morning, and I'm still working. And I was late getting here to the store, and my oldest daughter, who manages the store, had a previous appointment. So she went to her appointment, and I was about 15 minutes late, I think. Because look, I wanted to be cute today. Okay, so I spent a little extra time and care at my vanity, got lost in the sauce, and realized, oh, I gotta go to the store. So I pull up, I say I'm 15 minutes late, right? And then I'm trying to pull into the parking space that I normally do in the store. Thank you, Josie. And there's a woman looking really dingy halfway in the space that I need to get in. So I'm sitting there patiently, and I'm giving her the look like, are you going to move? And she moves. So I go to unlock the door, and I realize that this person was waiting for me to open. And I just had a long discussion with my daughter about that we need to be here on time. For people who have worked from home, now I've worked from home for the past decade. My daughter has been working for me for the past year. So you can get used to having certain habits that are hard to get out of. And I did tell her, which is so funny, that there was going to be a time when we pull up and we're late and there's going to be people here at the door. Okay? All right. So that's my end of the situation, for which I apologize profusely. So we're in here talking, and she's telling me she has a beauty store. Now, mind you, she clearly does not appear to be the descendant of slaves or Africans who existed in this country before or after slavery. And so what I have come to realize, and my daughter was like, just don't even ask. Just, they come in to get something, whatever, that's fine. So she immediately went over to the Santa Muerte candles, talking about how beautiful they were, putting her damn hands on them. And yeah, straight from the bed to the store. I've been working since 6 o'clock this morning. So in any case, so she comes into the store and she's touching Santa Muerte, and I'm like, hold up, wait a minute. Do you know anything about that practice? And she was like, no, I've got some friends who do. I know a little. I've read a little. And I said, that's not a spirit that you want to be working with without training from someone in the tradition. And so just a word for the wise. And I was explaining to her that I had different classes available, and there's some playing cards over here, and she asked me what they are. And, oh, awesome, Chantel, I love you. I'm glad you like it. So she asked what the playing cards were, and I told her, and I explained I teach a playing card class, but I need time to revise it because I want numerology to be a part of it. And then somehow, some way, she told me, yeah, I practice hoodoo. And I said, really? I said, do you have ancestors that were part of the transatlantic slave trade, or ancestors who did this practice? Do you have basically the blood of brown or black people, really? I didn't even say brown. She goes and she says that I have Spanish ancestors. And I said, well, then possibly their practices would be different. There wouldn't be hoodoo. And so here we go. That she didn't know basically her ancestry because of certain circumstances in her life. And I said, well, I suggest that you find out what it is, because there are lots of people who are called to the religions and magical practices of black people who don't appear to be black, but somehow, some way are. My cousin happens to be one of them. She kind of looked like her. But I knew what I was dealing with when she walked into the store. She had cornrows. And she was dressed in a manner of, not in what you are commonly used to seeing from non-black people out here in these suburbs, okay? And it is tragic because I told her, I was like, this is the thing. The rules. Don't hate the player, hate the game. The rules of this particular practice, the way it has been defined by your anthropologists, but the way we made it from the very beginning, is that hoodoo is the ancestral practice of Black people. Okay? So there's root magic in every single religion and magical practice. The doctrine of signatures doesn't change because of what race you are, but let's stop and think about where these concepts came from in the first place. Africa. So, yes, you can use these reference books written by people who are not necessarily in your practice to read about the doctrine of signatures and the planetary alignments and the gods and goddesses and the genders associated with different herbs and roots. That's universal, and I let her know that. I said, but until you are sure about your ancestry, because one of the major tenets of this practice is ancestor veneration, you cannot go around talking about you practicing hoodoo. And then she says, well, I practice it with my Black girlfriends and I do well. And I'm like, what you don't seem to understand is being around, socializing with, marrying, having children with Black people does not give you an automatic in. And somebody did make a comment today that we have continuously been the most accommodating, loving people when members of the oppressors come into our situations and our spaces. Loving, forgiving, and accommodating, which now has turned into a real problem because now when a white man goes and shoots up a school of, or a church full of people trying to worship, then all of a sudden these Negroes are talking about they forgive them because there are parts of religions that dictates. Yes, right. But that's the thing. They call me racist. I got some white friends. See how disingenuous that shit sounds? So, and I don't really know how to make it any plainer. My business was built, my life was built on my ancestors. This business has been, for the most part, I'm going to say a conservative estimate is 98% African American, African, brown people of color supporting it. And every single time one of them comes up into this store, they're buying some incense. She got like 6 things of incense, whatever else, nothing expensive. And then sat it right down here on the counter and left. And I was like, bye. See ya. Because you sitting up here wanting to learn things and educate me, learn from me, but you don't want to hear the truth. You can't be my student. Anytime, any day, you can't be my student. There are a lot of magical practices with a lot of similarities, with a lot of shared energies. And just like I don't go to people who practice the Norse religion and try to make Odin black, you can't come in and make our practices white. That's not cool. It's not only being a colonizer and an appropriator. First of all, your ancestors must be really fucking pissed at you because you are not acknowledging them in your spiritual work. Okay? Why would you want to do that? Wouldn't you want to be the most effective as you can be in your practice? And if said practice, and I know hoodoo cannot be the only one, but it's the only one I'm studying and care about, and voodoo, if that practice tells you that you have to have ancestral lineage in order to practice it, what are you doing? No, I'm sorry. You don't get to rewrite rules. I don't get to rewrite rules. And I'm telling you, I've had to make this choice. I had to make this choice with the church. I had to make this choice with other forms of African traditional religion. When there is an African traditional religion that has precepts and rules that don't fit what I want to do, I'm not going into that religion and trying to tell them, reglement is reglement, thank you. I'm not going to change it up, but you have to understand everything we made, they took. Everything we do, they want. And they don't even have the nerve to come in and try to be nice about it. They want to come in and be combative about it. And I told you all, I'll burn this motherfucker down before I lie. Before I sacrifice and betray my ancestors and my spirits. You know? And the conversation can either go well, or you can get in your feelings about it. But I don't understand. I don't understand that when it's cognitive dissonance, it's willful obtuseness. When you tell someone, this ain't for you, or this may not be for you, because I told that woman, I got a cousin look just like her. I'm 75% black, but trust me, when I sent that ancestry kit in, I was like, oh God, what if I'm not who I thought I was? Find out who you are. And that will lead you to ancestral practices. I'm going to say this again. Ancestral practices. Nobody comes in and tries to change chaos magic. Either you practice it or you don't. Nobody comes in and tries to change ceremonial practices. Either you practice it the way they tell you to or you don't. Nobody tries to change Nordic. Nobody tries to change any of these other religions. But they feel like they can come in and walk all over ours. And that's not going to happen. Now, my mom told me when I opened the store to have something for everybody. You know, Patty's on here. We were just joking, Patty, when you talk about, I got white friends. You know, it sounds just as disingenuous when we say it too. But Patty is a witch in this community. And she is non-black. And she knows her shit. And she could come in here. I sent a link that Patty wrote an article about days of the week for magic to one of my students. But you don't see her appropriating somebody else's ancestors' religions. You know? Right. They want to always own you. And I won't be owned. She ran her monkey ass up out of here. So understand this. I don't like having to deal with this nonsense. And it got to the point where my daughter was just like, Mama, just don't even ask them what they practice. If they come in here and they want to buy something and stuff, that's fine. Don't ask them what they practice. So I didn't even ask. Not my business, not my monkey, not my show. Now, if a black person comes in here and they're just starting out and they're lost, and I'll help them and ask them what they're doing. But anybody else where I don't have a place in their backyard, I don't ask. I just sell you what you want. But when she over here messing with Santa Muerte, I'm just kind of like trying to be nice to you, trying to tell you, you might want to study it before you do it. So if she had spent any time studying hoodoo instead of doing hoodoo with her girlfriends, she would have known. And my thing is this: when you see somebody feel some kind of way about something and they're telling you that the anthropological, and that's another thing, we didn't make these labels. We didn't make the label Negroid, Black, Caucasoid. We didn't do any of that. Do you all realize that? We didn't set up race. They did. We didn't set up slavery. We didn't set up systematic racism. They did. But when you call them on the very things that were created, established, and kept going as a result of all of those things, then they upset. Well, I'm sorry if you don't like history. I'm really sorry. You know, most people who don't like history don't know it. That's the part that is the really irritating part. And of course, I'm sure that this person did not hear anything else I was saying, okay? That the doctrine of signatures and that root magic crosses all magical traditions. That ain't gonna change, which is why you can use Cunningham's or Llewellyn's concordances when you're putting magical formulations together. But they didn't create that either. Science here, people. We're the oldest people on the planet. They didn't come from Europe. So people moved, learned, evolved, adapted, and created new traditions, cultural norms, and ways to venerate their ancestors. People here in this country don't leave their ancestors in their house for years like they do in some parts of Asia. Okay? That would be considered disrespectful to their ancestors. Yet that's the highest form of respect. Okay? And when they start to stink, they cover them with flowers and perfume. They still give them cigarettes. I put up a whole post about it. But I'm not going to go in their country and tell them that what they're doing is disrespect to a corpse. That's their tradition. That is their ancestor veneration. So when you come in here and you mention a term that is the ancestor veneration of my people, and then all I asked was, do you have ancestry in this practice? And you can't answer that, then you're not practicing hoodoo. You're practicing root magic, or as my mentor say, root cutting. Some witches practice root cutting. See, this magic can be for everybody, okay? But it holds a special place deep in my heart, historically, for my people. Because the more and more that I study this, okay? The more and more that I study this, I'll realize it's the only reason why we're still here. And then we're looking at what's happening now in this world. I used to be We Are the World when I first started practicing. In fact, there's a blog post where I actually recant a previous blog post about deciding who can practice a particular thing. And I'm going to say it again. Don't hate the player, hate the game. You mad at me because I'm telling you the rules of a religion that basically came in to its formation in this country due to the oppression of your ancestors. And you mad. Go talk to your ancestors about it. See, that's the problem. And I really, really honor people that don't fuck with ancestors that ain't no good. I understand their need for wanting to reach out and to do something different and to connect with people who, in spite of everything, we've done pretty damn good. In fact, there's a term for it. It's called Black excellence. So I understand it's always been this way. I understand the fascination. I understand maybe you wanting to look at it from a scholarly approach. But baby, when you're practicing something and you're making it something that's part of your lifestyle, that connection is everything. I ain't some yellow ass woman pretending to be African up in here. In fact, I don't even pretend to be African. I'm a black woman in this country. I know very little about the cultures that make up my ancestry, and I'm striving to learn more and more and more about them every day. But I refuse to pose. You know, there's some Africans that probably could get mad at me for wearing this gele. But we wore them here. We were forced to wear them here to cover our beautiful hair. So don't tell me about appropriation. You can't appropriate something that you are already part of. All you have to do is learn about it. And so I just don't really know, because the purpose of this store and the black people that come into the store tell me all the time that they're really happy that I'm here. And I'm going to have to finish. Well, let me go over here and plug in because my phone battery is low. They're happy we're here because The stores on the other side of town, their stores were on the other side of town. Those places are not as diverse as my suburb, this part of Reynoldsburg, Columbus area. They don't connect. There's nothing wrong with the other vendors. I've sold my products at some of these other stores, but there was nothing for us. So what's really blowing my mind is how you think, and this is the epitome of white privilege, y'all. Y'all need to know this. How they think that they can come into my store that we built. Y'all built this. I can tell by your names. I can tell by your addresses. I can tell by when I talk to you on the phone or when we meet in real life or I become your teacher. You're not going to come in a place that we built and try to dismantle it with your privilege. I'm tired of it. So if you are in the area, you want to come in the store and you have people who are from other cultures that want to come in here and dictate what I built, tell them how I operate. Just as I said something about Santa Marta. Santa Marta is not part of my culture, but I know there are people here who practice with her. That's why I bought the candles. Have something for everybody. But I'm not teaching Santa Marta classes. And the only reason why I have an altar for her in my home is because I was taught to work with her from her devotees. And I was doing spell work for someone in Mexico. And that shit worked. That spirit is powerful, but that spirit is also demanding. And mostly the folks that claim they are devotees of her have never been to Mexico and don't know nothing about her. But you practicing with Santa Muerte. The fuck out of here. It's insulting. I know there was somebody who was practicing witch, and she made a rune kit. And she started talking about the symbolism of runes and its relation to Africa. And she got death threats because Caucasian pagans were very upset with her appropriation. Ain't that something? This magic, any magic that is ancestrally based, there's a lot of magic you can practice that doesn't have anything to do with ancestors. Whether or not I think that is effective or not is not my business. Just like she says, her work has been very effective. I was like, well, you might have some African ancestry. You might want to really, because looking at who you are is not just a matter of your race and your culture. There's a lot of things that make up who you are. But that's an important part, especially in these practices that literally hinge on them. Now, if there was something historically that did not say what I'm saying is not true. Yes, there are people who are not black and were not part of the tradition who practiced conjuration, metaphysics, witchcraft, but hoodoo, once again, is the magical practice that evolved here with the African slave trade. And if you show me something else, where there's a preponderance of evidence that proves that, if you could prove it to me with something else, let me know. Because unlike some people coming in here and buying their little $2 things of incense, unlike some people, I can be taught. So, keeping that in mind, really, we're here for all people, all practices. We've got something for everybody here. However, understand that to make $1, cultural appropriation and the disrespect of that culture's ancestors is not acceptable here. It is not wanted here. I will never need money that badly. Like I said, I only opened the store because it got so big that I couldn't keep it in my house anymore. I opened the store so that when the website started making enough money that I knew that I could take care of it. So if nobody ever came through this door, which I spend a lot of time here just working, it's real nice to be here, being able to work because I'm away from my kids. So when they're here, I can go back home. But I made this business when I got this store together when I knew that the web business would sustain it. And then the web business fell off because y'all seem to think that now that we got the store, we not operating the website anymore. I'm not abandoning the website, but I'm also not going to abandon what I believe to be true. And just like you have these people out here refusing to sell wedding cakes to gay people and all kinds of other nonsense, I have the right, the Supreme Court has said I have the right that I don't have to agree with, cater to anybody else's religious views. That being said, I didn't tell her to leave. That being said, I didn't tell her she couldn't buy nothing. That was a choice she made herself. And that's okay. But if you tell me something and I ask you a question, you immediately get defensive and send the conversation left because you know you don't have a leg to stand on. I don't know what to tell you. What's today? Today is Thursday. Usually Wednesday is when people work my nerves. Like I said, in being a better person, like I said, you learn from different experiences. So after I had the first experience with somebody who was not part of the diaspora, talking about they practice hoodoo, and I just was very nice and let her know, well, that's not necessarily true. It doesn't matter how nice you are. They're still going to get mad about it. They're still going to get mad when you tell them that they can't have something. That's what colonizers do. Because they take. They take without regard to our feelings, our history, our ancestors. And if you care about magic at all, one would think that you should. You should care. I am about the preservation of all cultures and their sacred beliefs. And I would never try to tell someone from that culture or that belief system how to practice something that's been literally keeping their ancestors alive and providing excellence, black excellence in this country since we got here before slavery. Y'all have a good day. I don't have time for this. I have way too much work to do.